Hello and welcome back to Our Voice, Our Choice podcast. I'm your host, Aaron. It's good to be back. I haven't done a new episode in a few weeks. The guest speaker I have with me today, Roberta Asher, she is a dietitian, currently doing her PhD, and she's also the creator of this awesome healthy cooking program for people with intellectual disability. Hello, Roberta. Thank you for agreeing to be on my podcast.
Hello, Aaron. Thank you very much for having me.
No worries. It's great that you're here. Let's get cracking, as they say, eh? Roberta, tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. As you mentioned, I'm an accredited practicing dietitian. I'm also a chef, but I'd say I just really, really love food. I've always loved food from ever since I was a young child. I love all things about food. I love eating food. I love preparing food. I love going out to different restaurants and trying different cuisines from all around the world. But yeah, I guess my love of food started as a child, and I initially thought that I wanted to be a chef, but I was also interested, when I was at school, I was also interested about health and particularly interested in the human body and biology. And when I was young, my mum said to me, when I wanted to be a chef, she said, maybe you could be a dietitian. But at the time, I didn't really want to continue with further study at that particular time. And so I went on and I did my training as a chef, and I worked for almost a decade as a chef. I trained as a chef. I went to a couple of different countries around the world and worked as a chef. And then when I came back in my late 20s, I decided to pursue study again, and that's when I became a dietitian.
Well, that's cool, Roberta. I'd like to think I know you reasonably well. I didn't know you went to a couple of different countries and worked as a chef. If you don't mind me asking, Roberta, what were those countries?
Where I spent the most time working as a chef was actually in Canada, which I think is very much like Australia, except they have mountains and skiing, whereas Australia has beaches and surfing. And I spent a whole year in Canada working in one of the big hotels there that was like a big castle in the mountains.
A lot of snow in good old Canada. I've never been there myself. I wouldn't mind going, but it's so expensive to go there. I remember looking it up to go a few years ago for my mum and I, because she loves Canada. And it was shocked at the cost it was going to cost for two people to go for a few weeks. I'm like, maybe find somewhere else. Tell us about your FLIP program.
Yeah, so FLIP is, as you mentioned earlier, is a healthy cooking program for people with intellectual disability. So after I finished my degree at the University of Newcastle, I got some experience as a clinical dietitian. But working, and that was fantastic for really consolidating my knowledge of nutrition and being able to talk to people about nutrition. But several years into working as a clinical dietitian, I realised what I really wanted to do was to be able to use all of my skills and all of my knowledge on cooking and use all of my skills and my ability to be able to talk to people about nutrition and combine the two of them to help people learn the practical skills that are needed to implement what we recommend in terms of healthy eating. So I had taught a number of healthy cooking programs in the community to all different populations. I'd done some classes for the elderly population. I'd done some classes for disadvantaged youth. I'd done some even private instruction where I'd gone into people's homes one-on-one to deliver healthy cooking education. But I really wanted to have a look at I guess from a research perspective, I wanted to look at it a little bit more deeply and think, well, I think when you give healthy cooking education, particularly in a group setting, you can see that you can see that how it benefits people. You can see that people might try foods that they wouldn't have previously tried before, perhaps because they've prepared them themselves, but also sometimes in that group environment when we're with peers or other people, we might be more inclined to try foods because other people are trying them. I really wanted to explore creating and delivering healthy cooking programs, but also looking at why they work so that we can make better programs. And I spoke to one of my current supervisor, Laureate Professor Claire Collins, who I had done some research work with previously about my desire to look at cooking education in research. And she said that, well, I've actually been talking to somebody in the disability sector who want to create a program for people with intellectual disability. And, would you be interested in doing that as a PhD research topic? And so that's how FLIP began. So FLIP is, to get back to your original question, FLIP is a healthy cooking program. It's a face-to-face program that we run for adults with intellectual disability. We've created the program completely from scratch. So we created that in partnership with the university team and with a service provider here in the Hunter, that's Challenge Community Services. And we've been working with a couple of people with intellectual disability to help us create the program. That's you, of course, Aaron, and your friend Sarah. And together we created the program. It's 8 weeks, face-to-face, and in each session runs for about 3 to 4 hours. And in that session, we start with a little bit of nutrition education. So each week we have a different theme that aligns with healthy eating. And then we do a cooking activity, everybody together, that aligns with the nutrition education topic. And then we all sit down and we have a meal together, and then we clean up, and we all clean up, and we also have a little bit more of a talk about how we can safely store our leftovers and transport food. So it's about a little bit of nutrition education, mostly healthy cooking, and a little bit about how we can safely store and shop for our meals as well. That's the FLIP program. We've just run a couple of groups through. We did what was called a pilot study. So that was really looking to see, well, we've created the program. Can we run the program? And will people come to the program? Are people happy with the program? And getting just a little bit of early data to see if it actually works to change how people might eat or how people might cook at home.
Awesome, thank you for that, Roberta. I still remember when you asked me to consult for FLIP. I love the name FLIP. And to be honest, after you asked me, my only worry was am I going to be helpful enough to help shape it into what it's become? And I'm really glad that I was. I ended up giving you like a mountain of feedback and that on it, and how just things from like the language use and so on. The language use is one I remember clearly, but I'm glad that I was able to be a part of it. I reckon it's going to be around for a long time to come, or I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. We are in that next phase now. We've run our pilot study, and the results of that were good. We were able to implement it. Our participants liked it, and we have a mountain of feedback as well for what we can do to improve the program in future. But yeah, we are in that next phase where we need to now start looking at, what support we have and in what way we'll take Flip forward so that more people can come to Flip, and hopefully so that you and me and Sarah can continue to work together to improve Flip and to help it to meet the needs of all the people that come in the future.
Absolutely. You mentioned the word there just before, support. Like with all programs, what it needs is moolah. It needs cash. Problem is that can be a real challenge to get. It's, forgive my bad French, but it can be a right old pain in the ass. I'm hoping that you'll get the funding from somewhere. CID, I think I might have mentioned, might be an option for it. Moving on. Talking about you being a dietitian and diets, and therefore my next question for you is, what are the benefits of eating well?
Thanks, Aaron. Good question. Of course, there are many, many benefits, but I might start that question by perhaps having a brief discussion about what healthy eating looks like.
Please do.
Yeah. If anyone wants to have a look at what diet they should be on, or what healthy eating does look like, eatforhealth.gov.au has a number of resources, but one of those is the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. And this is a great visual representation of what a sort of optimal diet would look like for most Australians. And that looks like a plate, and on that plate, the majority of the foods that are on that plate are our plant foods, basically. So
I remember this good old plate.
Yeah.
I remember getting one when I did Special Olympics healthy athlete program. They gave us this lovely looking plate, and it, as you're saying, it had the foods that you should eat plenty of, and foods that are all right for you, but be controlled with it. And then there's the bad no-go kind of food.
Yeah, or I like to think of them more as, rather than no-go, but our, eat them occasionally. I mean, we enjoy, of course we're talking about our junk food.
Yeah, our treats.
Our treats, yeah. And look, I never tell anyone, don't eat these, you can never eat these are really bad for you. We eat them, they're tasty. We eat them because we enjoy them. There is a time and place for them. But, majority of the time, if we can, aim to make our diet mostly look full of those plants, so our vegetables, our whole grains, and our fruits, and lots of colour and lots of variety with those ones. And then sort of moderate amounts of lean meats and chicken and fish and dairy, moderate amounts of dairy as well. So that's what we sort of broadly want to be aiming for most of the time, and enjoying our treats every now and then. Then as long as we sort of get back on the wagon most of the time. But certainly the benefits of eating well, probably the biggest, the hot topic in nutrition at the moment, and where there's a lot of research being done and new research emerging, are the benefits of healthy eating for our mental health and for our well-being. So studies are really showing that when we fill our diet with lots and lots of those plant foods, lots and lots of different colours, that has all kinds of benefits for helping us, helping our mental health. Of course, eating well provides us with the energy that we need to do our day-to-day activities and to maintain have good muscle strength. Eating well, in the immediate term, helps us to fight off infections and recover quickly from infections, or recover quickly from injuries or cuts. But certainly in the long term, if we eat eat well over a lifetime, that can certainly really reduce our risk of chronic disease. So these are things like diabetes, heart disease, cancer, which of course are some of the biggest killers. So certainly eating well can help reduce our risk that we get these diseases, but also they can help us to manage them so that we don't, experience bad health when we do get them. And of course, eating well over a lifetime can help us to live longer and have a much better quality of life and be healthier through our life. So, plenty of reasons.
Absolutely, for sure. It also avoids the chances of diseases like diabetes. It's going to lower the risk of heart attacks and strokes as well.
Yes.
And quote me if I'm wrong, Roberta, but I think it can also help with recovery from injuries.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So if we're recovering from injury, then we need to have good nutrition to be able to provide, the goods and the wherewithal for us to heal that injury. Yeah, if we don't have good nutrition, if we're not filling our body with what we need when we have an injury, we're not going to be able to repair that injury as quickly and as efficiently as we would otherwise.
Cool. Since let's talk more about dieting. My next question for you, Roberta, is what advice do you have for someone who's thinking of going on a diet?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look, if someone's thinking about going on a diet, I guess if they were approached me to ask me what I think, what advice I would give, the first thing I would be thinking of is, well, what's the reason that you need to go on the diet? For some people who have a certain medical diagnosis, they might need to go on a lifelong diet. For example, if somebody had celiac disease, they would need to go on a gluten-free diet for the rest of their life. And in that case, if there is a medical diagnosis, they should really go and see an accredited practicing dietitian so that they know that they have all the information that they need to be able to adhere to that diet, but also the support for them to be able to implement that diet in the long term. But if somebody was, wanting to go on a diet because they, for example, just wanted to feel better or eat better or to lose weight, I would probably talk to them first of all about if there was a particular diet that you'd perhaps seen on the internet or heard about in social media that you might want to go on and look at what is that diet promising, and what is that diet what is required of that diet, because if it's a very restrictive diet that asks you to cut lots of foods out, or that says you can't eat this, you can't eat that, then that first of all could be bad for your health if it doesn't align with those healthy eating recommendations that we talked about earlier, but also you're probably not going to be able to stick to it very well in the long term. So for things like sort of general healthy eating, looking better, feeling better, having more energy, better health, I tend to think of it more as a healthy eating pattern that we follow throughout our entire life, rather than going on a diet for 10 weeks time. And so if we've got to go on it for life, then it has to be something that we can implement over a lifetime. It has to be something that works with our lifestyle, with our tastes, with our preferences. And so I don't really tell people you should eat this and you should eat that. Don't eat these things, don't eat that. I would work with the person to identify perhaps what have they tried in the past? What have they done in the past to improve their healthy eating, and really work with the person to come up with their own plan that works for them, rather than me giving them something quite prescriptive. If someone tells you eat this, don't eat that, you're just not going to follow that. So I get getting the person to really think about what they've done in the past, what worked, what didn't work, think about why it didn't work, and then perhaps to start small. So think of what's one small change that you might be able to make, and then helping the person to think, well, what might get in the way of me making that change, and getting them to come up with their own strategies about how they might, address that. And so then going away and working on one small thing, and then once you do that, if you're able to do that, then you've got that, and that sort of forms a habit. Then, okay, well, let's look at maybe perhaps one other change that you can make, and go through that same process again. And then when you're confident, and then as you make more and more changes, your confidence might grow, and then you can maintain, you've got that that goal, that healthy eating goal, whatever your goal might be, and you can continue to build on that.
Thank you for that, Roberta. You mentioned, that having a diet that, that it's going to work for you, it's going to benefit you, you're going to enjoy it. You don't want a diet that's you're not going to enjoy, and it's actually going to, you're going to go backwards with it. You're just wasting your time, I think. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I love about the work that I do, and with teaching healthy eating through healthy cooking skills, is the food that we eat has to be tasty. It has to taste good, it has to smell good, has to look good, has to have a nice texture. If our meals don't have that, then we're not going to eat them. And so when we can teach people about healthy cooking, it can open up a whole world of different, when you can cook more foods, it opens up a whole world of different things that you can make. So if you don't like, cauliflower that's steamed, well, if we roast it in the oven, it's a completely different flavour, it's a completely different texture, and you might like it that way. So by teaching healthy cooking, we often teach people that, this food actually really tastes really good and I want to eat it.
I really agree with all that. Just quickly back to flip. I remember in one of the sessions, Sarah and I were cooking our own separate dishes. This is a quick story, I hope, but I remember the dish I was trying to make was just simply fried rice. And then when I realised I was starting to struggle with it, I'm like, this is not a good look. You're one of the ones that's meant to be helping run the programs, and you're struggling to make something as simple as fried rice. This is not a good look at all. And I thought, and then I think I remember saying to you that I was actually interested in being a participant, not one of your helpers. And I'm still interested in being a participant of Flip in the future, hopefully. Moving on to the next question. Again, an advice question. What advice do you have for someone who's struggling to stick to a diet, which is me?
Yeah, look, I probably would say, don't be too hard on yourself. Cut yourself a little bit of slack sometimes. I think if you're, like I said, I try not to think too much about, especially if it's healthy eating and healthy. If it's something that we sort of really want to be doing over a lifetime, because as I said, healthy eating can really reduce our risk of chronic disease, things like, as you said, stroke and cardiovascular disease and diabetes. These are conditions that can sometimes take years to develop in a person. So what we really want to be doing is eating well throughout our entire lifetime. Now, through our entire life, there are going to be occasions where we want to eat, our cake and go to a party and eat our party food and have our chocolate and that kind of thing. So the most important thing is if, especially Christmas time is coming up and, we all tend to overindulge a little bit at Christmas time.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do for sure.
So
plate looks, my plate looks like it could easily fill 2 smaller plates, but I won't go into it anymore.
Yeah. So, I guess the thing is to just not throw the whole healthy eating thing out the window. It's just like, right, okay, back to what I would normally do. And thinking back on, well, what worked in the past? What was I able to do with my eating in the past? It might be that particular meal, might be every afternoon instead of having a chocolate bar. That's when I have a piece of fruit, and that's a habit. I always take it to work with me. So thinking back on what's worked in the past, putting that back into place, and then as you're building up those healthy habits again. So it's important to remember, if you have those treats, come back to most of the time. This is the kind of pattern of eating that I come back into, which is, as much as we can, filling our diet full of, lots of colourful vegetables, fruits, and, variety of different whole grains as well.
A big part of, I'll use the word successfully dieting is, as you said, you're doing or eating what's worked. And the other thing I think is self-control. You got to have self-control. If you just go, ordering something off DoorDash is easy. I don't have to do any cooking or food prep or anything like that. Sure, you can order stuff off DoorDash like your Subway, which is it's all right for you, but it's not the greatest. And then you got the the occasional foods, the junk foods, like just example, Macca's and Hungry Jack's and KFC and so on. And so I think it's doing what works for you and self-control. I think are big parts of a successful diet.
Yeah, and that's part of looking at, and this is where an accredited practicing dietitian can be really helpful to give you that support that you need. An accredited practicing dietitian can work with you and what your goals are. And we take a client-centered, patient-centered approach where we really guide you through looking at what are those things that might get in the way. So you might have set a goal for, I'm going to eat a home-cooked meal through the week, for example, and on the weekend, that might be when I get my DoorDash. So a dietitian would talk you through, what might get in, what might get in the way of you achieving that goal. And so it can work with you to put some, help you come up with strategies to help you achieve that goal.
Definitely. What things might get in the way? I think we all call them barriers. Yeah, barriers. I was going to think of another word, but I think barriers is the best word to describe it.
Yeah, and they'll be different for everybody, and they'll be different at different times in our lives and in different situations. But it is a really difficult, food environment where we live in, where there is a lot of, temptation. There is a lot of things that will conspire against us, I guess, in terms of particularly if we have healthy eating goals. So, yeah, I think the important thing is if you are struggling to stick to a diet, don't be too hard on yourself, but maybe go and if you need a little bit of extra help to work through things, go and seek that support.
Good advice. I should be listening to it, and I hope I do. I was given I'm going to call it, I guess, a normal diet of I think just eating better. And even though I never met this dietitian, and I spoke to you about him, but shocking. I was struggling to remember what his name.
That's okay.
Was it Mark Leary?
Yep.
Yeah, he was the dietitian that wrote out my diet. Well, it's like a diet, and it's got just suggestions of better eating on it. So, and he's written what kind of foods to go for.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like an actual like diet. It's just like a more like dietary guideline. It's probably the best way to put it. But thank you greatly for that, Roberta. I've certainly learnt a fair bit, and I hope all the listeners have too. The final question that I have for you, Roberta, is a fun one. And the checkout question that I have got for you, aren't you lucky, is what is your favourite healthy food or meal?
Ooh.
You can say both if you want to. I'm going to.
Yeah, I have lots. But I think my favourite, it's a dish. It could be eaten at any meal, though. It could be breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh,
it's one of the things. I love eggs.
Same here.
If you've got eggs in the house, you can make breakfast, lunch, or dinner.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with eggs.
Yeah, absolutely. So mine's like a tomato baked eggs. It's a bit like a shakshuka, if you've ever had that in a cafe or been to a Middle Eastern restaurant.
No.
But this is super. There's only a few ingredients in this one. So what you do is make like a tomato sauce, and there are different ways that you can make it. You could make it just with some chopped up onion and some cans of tomatoes. But my absolute most favourite way to make it is like I get my fresh tomatoes, and I always keep my tomatoes out of the fridge because it improves their flavour. They get a much better flavour when you leave them out of the fridge. I just keep an eye on them. Each day I just have a little look at my tomatoes and just check they're not getting too soft, certainly not getting mouldy. That's when they've gone too far, but just that they get that nice rich red colour and have a good weight to them. So when they're really nice and red, I put them in the oven with a bit of olive oil and maybe some whole cloves of garlic, and then I roast them, and then I mash them all up with a masher and then push them through a strainer. It does take a little bit of work, and then I get a nice tomato sauce with that, sort of like a passata that you might buy from or a pasta sauce that you buy from the supermarket, and then which you could use instead of the freshly made tomato sauce. And then what I usually do is chop up some onion, bit of garlic if you like garlic, fry that in a bit of olive oil, a bit of cumin, the tomato sauce, and then you crack some eggs into it and cook them really, really gently in the sauce. And then you eat it just like that. You might want to sprinkle a bit of coriander or parsley on the top and get some nice bread and dunk it in the sauce. But yeah, you can do a quick version just with some cans of tomatoes or passata.
Sheesh, you're making me hungry. I'll have to try it out one day. My favourite healthy meal is a pretty simple and to some might sound dull, but it's just a salad with either little like chicken strips in it or tuna. Just super simple and easy and quick to make, and unfortunately if you buy one of them they're not that cheap, which stinks, but like everything now it's gonna sting your wallet a little bit. As for like individual foods, it's a tie between celery, which is to my understanding, amazing for you. I think, and watermelon. I can't get enough of watermelon. I can just eat it all day.
Yeah. Actually, on that topic, I'm very glad that it's mango season coming up, because I love mango with mango with a bit of Greek yogurt, actually, because the mangoes are very sweet, and the Greek yogurt just provides just a little bit of sour to go with the sweet. If you're not that used to eating, Greek yogurt, you can pop a little bit of honey in there to just take that sour edge off. But yeah, mango and yogurt, I'm pretty happy that we've got the mango season coming up for that one.
I don't mind a good old mango. My mum loves them. I like them. I wouldn't say I love them, but they are good, but they're not on the same level as watermelon. So thank you very, very much, Roberta, for all that. You've been awesome, just like all of my other guest speakers that I've had. Again, thank you very much for agreeing to be a guest speaker. I really, really do appreciate it. And just super quick, you mentioned that this is your first ever podcast that you've ever been involved in.
That's correct.
How was it?
Good. You're a great host.
Thank you very much.
You encouraged a really good, just a nice conversation. It was just good. I felt very relaxed, and it was good to just sit here and have a good conversation with you.
I'm glad, because that's what I want. I don't want people to feel stressed or worried. Yeah, we're just having a friendly, casual chat.
Yeah,
and that's I'm glad that I've been getting that. I've been doing that. So happy days again. Yep. Thank you very much, Roberta. I hope you, my listeners, and everyone else in the world, I hope you all have a very happy and safe week. Thank you. See you guys. Bye.